I want you to be here with me today. I want you to be grounded. I want you to be focused because I have to honestly say that I don't know if I've ever delivered a more important message than the one that I am about to deliver it to you today. And I hope that I can do it justice because I have to tell you that this message, this calling has been like in my soul, ready to come to the surface, ready to come out for so long. This program that I'm actually going to be introducing you to at the end of this free masterclass has literally been in the works for months, and it is the very first program that I've actually created before selling it. And it's because it's a deep dive program, it's because it's a personal experience, and it is incredibly different than anything that I've done in the past. And it's not about business, it's about life. And the truth is, I don't actually think that the two are disconnected. I think that the two are so intrinsically intertwined that if I can teach you how to be more present, more awake, more in tune with your life and love your life that much more, I believe that that will impact the business that you are building. I believe that the way that you do life is the way that you do business. The way that you do business is the way that you do life. And I think too often we try to compartmentalize all of these areas inside of our lives, right? This is for here, this is for here, the bucket for this, the bucket for that. And what if it just all got to be? What if it all just got to be one of this, like this part, this piece of this beautiful, beautiful life that you're building? And what if inside of that life that you're building, you get to love every single second? Almost every single second. I mean to say every single second is a bit crazy, but I can honestly say it's like, it is almost every single second, right? When you're in tune and you're present and you're doing the things that light you up and you're living in a way that lives to what you feel is your purpose on this earth and really in tune with your core values in your life, it is almost 100%, right? And I was wondering if you had figured out what living for the 28% meant. If you had figured out what that 28% represents, because that 28%, it represents the weekends. The weekends that we have inside of our 7-day week, those 2 days, is 28% of our life. And I want you to resonate with that for a second. When I said this out loud to one of my clients, she was just like, wow. Right? It's such a small fraction of our week. And yet how much of the human race is living for the weekends? And to go a little bit further, how many of us are living for the future? I love that Dr. Seuss book, Oh, the Places You'll Go. And then that one section where it talks about, we're waiting for this, we're waiting for this. We're all sitting here waiting. And whether you're waiting for the workday to be done so you can go home and you can detach from it in the evening, whether you're waiting for your next vacation, whether you're waiting for your next promotion at work so that it gets easier, whether you're waiting for the 28%, which happens on the weekend, how much of your life are you spending actually just waiting for the things that you get to enjoy inside of your life? And when you think about it that way, and you think about how much of your life is spent waiting, don't you want more from your life than that? Don't you want to actually be plugged in, present, and loving every single second? Don't you want to live a life based on your true purpose, being here? And don't you want to be anchored into that purpose all the time? Right? Wouldn't your life have so much more meaning if it wasn't about waiting? If you love this moment as much as you were going to love 3 days down the line or 3 weeks when you go on your family vacation. And it's not to say that we're not going to love our family vacations that much more. Absolutely. But the truth is I want you to love the day-to-day just as much. I want you to love you as much as you love the people around you. And ultimately, I want you to start showing up for yourself as much as you're showing up for everybody else. Because when you do that, all of a sudden, you're going to love your life that much more. because you're going to take care of you, and you're going to surround yourself with things that like matter to you, and you're going to make sure that the things that you're doing, the way that you're spending your time, aligns with the human being that you want to be. And I rarely do this, but I have notes with me today because I had such a powerful message that I wanted to come through for you guys today, that I didn't want to miss anything. I didn't want to like skip over something and accept it. But here's the next piece of this puzzle. I want you to ask yourself, where in your life are you accepting that it's good enough? Good enough, right? Where in your life are you accepting that this is the way life is? It doesn't necessarily get better, so this is good enough. Let me give you an example. Many of you probably don't know this, but before I found my husband, and Wayne and I met in Teachers College, and we both went to Teachers College later on in life. We were 28 years old, and we met, and at that time, I had a very long-term boyfriend, 10 years. We had been together since high school. We both went to different universities. We stayed together through all of that. We both lived 2 hours away when we very first got our first jobs. We were together during that. I eventually moved to his city, started a life, built a business. I started a wedding planning business there. Eventually we moved in together, and there was this big chunk of my life where something was missing, and I knew it. And you know it when something is missing. You know it when you're accepting something that isn't the way that you want it to be, the way that you desire to be. You know it in your soul. But a lot of the times what happens is we don't admit it to ourselves. And here's the thing, because sometimes on paper, there is nothing wrong. There was nothing wrong with my life. In fact, every single person that, albeit except for my really close friends that really knew inside of my heart and inside of my soul, the majority of the humans looked at my life, and I was leading a very blessed life. I had this beautiful relationship with this incredible guy who was extremely successful, who loved me, who intended to marry me one day, intended to have a family with me one day. We had all of these memories because we had been friends since we were 11 years old when we met at church. And so there was nothing wrong with my life, but I was empty inside my life. I was empty. There were months, there may have been years, where I went to bed every single night thinking, is this it? When does it get a little bit better than this? When do I start to feel filled up? And so what I would do is I would start to fill my bucket with all of these different things. And then I would start to look towards the future, as the future being the thing that would make everything click into place. So I started a business that I loved. I surrounded myself with friends that I loved. I did social things that I loved. I went here, I went there. We vacationed together, all in an attempt to fill up my life that felt empty. And I kept telling myself, when we get married, when we have children, then that is when I will feel better. That's when I'll feel fulfilled. That's when I'll feel happy. And what I realized when I met Wayne is that I had to stop waiting. I had to go for something that felt right. And it was not easy. It was not easy to leave a 10-year relationship with a human that was a really good person, who on paper would have given me a life that was blessed, incredible, filled with memories, filled with abundance, all the things, but it wasn't enough for me. I was empty inside that life. And so I had to make this choice, and the choice was not freaking easy, you guys. I had to move cities. I had to move back with my parents. I had to admit that I was not leading the life that everybody thought that I was. And I would ask you, where in your current life are you doing this? I would even go on to say that, like, you can have careers that you thought that you want. You guys, I pursued different careers, and then I would get there and I would just be like, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. This doesn't feel how I want to feel inside of my everyday life. This doesn't light me up. This doesn't fill me up. This doesn't make me want to be present inside of every single day, right? It doesn't, you know that feeling that you have on Sunday where at noon it starts to creep up on you and you're like, start to get that really heavy feeling because you're gonna have to start your work week again. If you have that feeling, there's something that you need to do to change that, because it's too much of your time spent in something that doesn't fill you up. And I get it. We have to work, we have to do all these things. But I also think that there are small shifts that we can make inside of our lives that will change everything. And I believe that we only get one life, although I actually do believe in past lives, but let's just pretend that this is the life, right? And what I believe about past lives is that you bring messages that you didn't fulfill in those last messages. You have the same soul and you continue to grow and expand. So if I want to grow and expand as much as I can inside this lifetime, I better live a life plugged in and loving every single second. I was on a conversation, I was on a call, like a Zoom call with a number of women, like maybe 6 months ago, and we were talking about this very aspect, and it was just so eye-opening to know how many women had all of these empty pockets inside of their life all over the place, and how I could truly, truly say, I love the life that I live. I've done a lot of work to love the life that I live, to love the body that I live in, to love the human that I am, to have healthy relationships around me. And this is a continual process of growth. I believe in continuous evolution, a lifetime of evolution, a lifetime of growth. I want to always be growing, always be learning until the day I die, because that is what makes life worth living, in my opinion. I'm not looking for a plateau. I'm not looking for an island. I'm looking to live a life where I feel inspired every single day. But in order to do that, I have to get really honest with myself. I have to ask myself, where inside of my current life right now isn't working? Is feeling like I'm hitting a bit of a brick wall. It could be a relationship that you have. It could be a friendship that you have. It could be a train of thought that continues to come up over and over and over again for you, right? It could be this place in your life where all of a sudden you don't feel like you're enough. You don't feel like you're good enough. Ask yourself the hard questions. Ask yourself the whys. Why don't I feel good enough here? Why am I constantly judging that family over there? Because let me tell you something, where we judge other people, that says more about us every single day of the week than it ever says about them. Because we only judge the things that mean something to us. So when you're judging, you need to take a hard look at the why. What is it saying about my life? So I'm judging her over here because she works out every single day so hard. She never eats chips. She eats all this healthy food. And I'm like, how can anybody live like that? But the deeper down meaning behind that is, I wish I could have a piece of that. I wish I could be that dedicated to my personal health that like I showed up for myself in that way. And maybe you don't want all the things that she does. Maybe you still want to have chips, but you always have to ask. You always have to be willing and open to asking yourself the hard questions. And what happens? Oh, another thing that I'll often find that is when I'm kind of giving an excuse for something inside of my life is that I'll be like, well, this is just a stage. And I've done this with with the kids, with our marriage, with the life, with all the things, and this is just a stage. Or when this happens, then this will click into place. Or, when I finally redo this bathroom, then I'm going to feel better about my entire life. Or when I get through this thing, then all of a sudden I can focus on me. All of a sudden I can now do the things that I had plans for inside of my life. And what I want you to know is life is going to pass you by if you don't take it by the reins, if you don't own that beautiful life that you have right now, if you stop freaking waiting. There is nothing that you need to wait for to start to unpack the life that you're leading right now. You do not need anybody else. You do not need anything else to love the life that you're living. You just need to be willing to be present inside of your life right now and to start to work through these things. and to get to the other side. This work isn't easy, and this course that I'm going to introduce you to, it's called Awaken the Woman Within for a reason, because I want us to be fully awake inside of our lives. I want us to love every inch and every corner of our lives, and that takes work. It's taken me work, and I know it'll take you work, right? It's about leading ourselves in our lives and knowing what we stand for, knowing what our core values are, doing things that are aligned with that. What happens in our lives so often is we focus on the shoulds. And that will throw us out of alignment. That will throw us, like, we just shoulds. And let me just like talk about the shoulds for half a second. Like, so when my kids were younger, and sometimes this is one of the reasons why I think my car accident was a blessing, because it really allowed us to narrow in on the things that really matter, because we didn't have the capacity for more, because I was, hurting and going through so much. But the shoulds would have told me that my children needed to be in skating lessons and hockey at the age of 2. My nephew did shit like that since the age of 2. And I'm not judging you if you did that, because part of me was maybe jealous of the parents that were able to do that. But for us, we didn't have the capacity, and we had to decide that was okay. It was okay to let go of that aspect, that our kids would still lead this really beautiful, amazing life. And but the shoulds told me that I should do those things. The shoulds tell me that I should be cooking these meals every night for my kids. The shoulds tell me that, I don't know, think of all the shoulds, right? The shoulds tell you that you should have a retirement plan, or the shoulds tell you that you should have this much in savings, or the shoulds tell you that you should work your business in this way. The shoulds tell you that you should be eating kale. And the thing is that the shoulds are not always wrong, but are they aligned with your core values? And are they aligned with the life that you want to build and who you are as a person? Because if they're not, then really all you're doing is chasing the shoulds. And you're living a life that's layered in levels of guilt and weight, right? That shit weighs you down. That shit doesn't allow you to wake up every single morning and actually live the life that feels good. When you shed, like, for instance, homeschooling. Homeschooling was this thing that, like, I should have been doing for the last 6 months, because every single other family was doing it. But I knew when I looked down that tunnel that if I followed that tunnel and I followed that level of should, that I was going to, the other things were going to go off the rails. And so I had to ask myself the hard questions. Should I do this? Should I move forward with the way that everybody else says it should be done? And I decided, no, I'm going to pivot, and I'm going to put myself and my family first, and I'm going to figure out what works for us. What we forget to focus on when we're really focusing in on the shoulds is our energy. Tapping into our energy, tapping into our priorities, tapping into our core values. This summer we allowed the kids to try 2 sports, if they or 2 activities if they wanted to. And this will be the only summer that I do that. And not because I don't want the very best life for my kids, right? Like, you guys, I'm also living for my children. I'm also building something for them. But at the end of the day, I am part of that equation. So if we as a family decide you get to do one thing, because this is what we can handle, this is where our energy is at, this is where what aligns with our priorities, then they have to live with that. Do I think that they're missing out on something? No. I think maybe sometimes by missing out on something, what it does is open us up to something else. My children are incredibly independent. They have this amazing connection with one another. They play, they love their lives, they're happy, they're fulfilled. If I lived inside the shoulds, who knows if they would have had that? Who knows if they would have had like the 4, 5, 6 years of being bored with one another and having to make their own fun, right? When we live inside the shoulds, we don't actually live inside of the life that we are supposed to be trailblazing. You do not have to live inside the shoulds. And I'm not saying that it's going to be easy to break through. It isn't easy to make these kind of decisions, but when you make the right decisions for yourselves, when you do the things that actually do align with your energy, oh my gosh, life gets to be amazing. And life gets to be whatever you want it to be. I want to design the life that I live. I want to be the one that creates it, that sets the boundaries, that sets the rules, that decides that this is what I do every single day. And I believe that every single one of us is capable of that. And I absolutely know that some of you want to tell me to F off because you've got mortgages to pay and you've got this to do and this to do. And absolutely. But the truth is, it's all choice. Every single thing we do is choice. If you wanted to quit your job right now and travel across the world, you could absolutely do that. I watched a friend do that over the last 3 years. They decided to become nomads. They sold every single thing that they owned in order to pay for that. They started a little side business that they could work online in order to live that life. It is all choice. But what it requires us to do is to get to the heart of what we actually want, to fully wake up inside of our everyday lives, to heal the relationships inside of our lives, to set boundaries that protect our energy, that protect the lives that we're building. I don't believe in being busy. And sometimes I feel guilt around telling people, like people will always like say to me, how do you have time to watch TV? How do you have time? Because you guys, like you all know, if you like, one of my girlfriends sent me a message like 2 days ago and she said like, thank you for the brothers and sisters recommendation. Like I stand corrected every single time I need a recommendation. I'm coming to you. I'm like, yeah, there's one thing I know TV. And people are like, well, how do you build this 7-figure business that you're working towards? And you also have time to watch a lot of TV and you are plugged in with your children, because we get to have it all. When we shed the shoulds and we start living a life that's actually in line with who we want to be on this earth, we shed all the shit that we don't have to do. I don't go to every single like outing that like maybe I should. I don't put my kids into every single activity that maybe I should. I sometimes ask for help, you guys. Imagine that. Asking for help or having expectations of other people and not just playing the martyr inside of our lives, because that's what women often do. We play the martyr, right? Well, and we expect other people to know when we need help. We expect other people to intrinsically have this like whatever. I was with our best friends this past weekend, and my girlfriend, she's going through a lot right now, a lot of trauma. She just lost her father and it's so much. But I watched as she's trying to do this alone. And it's so hard and it's so sad. And every single time that I could see her making a decision between asking for help and doing it herself, she chose to do it herself. But the truth is, we are not alone. There are so many people out there that can help us. There are so many hands reaching out to help us, that we just need to accept that help and accept that we will be better people for that help. You guys, after my car accident, we tried to still live. I still wanted us to try and live the life that we had before, where we were active. And there was so much Wayne is a very, very social person. That is how he gets his energy. That's how he blows off steam. It's how he feels complete. And so I didn't want to take that away from him, because I was a human disaster. And so there were 4 years, 3 years, 3.5, 4 years, where I was not capable of watching my children on my own for a whole weekend. Do you know how hard that was to unpack as a mother? And as a mother that before my accident was capable of taking over the world and doing it with 3 children on her hips? Hard. But you know what I did? So that we could live a life that was like aligned with our core values and our priorities and that we loved, I asked for help. And I grew, and there was 2 choices that I had, right? Do it anyways so that he could go and do the things that he needed to do, and maybe hate him along the way, because why is camping more important than like being with his family when his wife is clearly struggling? But I would internally hate him, right? I wouldn't put it out into the world, because that would be owning our feelings if I put it out into the world. That would be actually speaking our truth. Right? And who wants to do that? So I would just sit over here and I would suffer, and I would hate him inside of that suffering. Or I could ask for help. I could be honest about what I was going through, what I needed to be able to make this possible, and we could work together to make that possible. We need to start speaking up. We need to start owning our truths. We need to stop expecting everybody else to be inside of our heads and know what we need. If my mom taught me one thing in life, she taught me that men are dumb and they need us to tell them what we need. Maybe you wouldn't all agree with that, but it's true, and it's really, really worked. It's really helped me well inside of my relationship, is just having an open dialogue and not being afraid to believe that I matter inside this relationship, that I'm a big piece of this puzzle, right? And that I am not going to play the martyr for him to go off and do his life, that I get to live a life too inside of this relationship, and that me living that life is just as important as anything else. The last piece of this puzzle that I want to talk about today is that a really, really simple little thing that you can start doing if this is resonating with you, if this feels like something that you want to start focusing on, is just asking yourself, how much of my time is spent on things that matter to me? How much of my time is bringing me joy, is lighting me up? How much of my time is focused on things like that? And how much of it is spent on things that don't care about, doesn't matter, right? Doesn't light me up, doesn't give me energy. In fact, it drains me. It sucks the energy. Because my hope is that when you look at it like that, you will start to make shifts that will start to get you towards living a life that's more in line with who you want to be and what you're here for. We are only here for a very, very short time. We are not guaranteed tomorrow. So you damn well better enjoy today. And I don't mean that you need to go skydiving. I don't mean that you need to do these massive vacations in order to enjoy today. You can enjoy today by aligning your activities with your core values, with things that matter to you. You can have a job that you love. You can build a business that you love. You can have a relationship inside of your marriage that fills you up. Every single one of us is worthy of that, just as we are right now. When you think of a baby that's born, that baby comes into the world and is loved exponentially. That baby comes into the world and we have all of these hopes and these dreams for them, and we feel like they are worthy of absolutely everything. You are exactly the same as you were when you were a baby. You are worthy of every single thing like that you were when you were a baby. It's the same thing. We just take dents out of ourselves along the way. We start to question ourselves. We start to not trust ourselves in that same way. And so I want to tell you a little bit about my program. I want to tell you about Awaken the Woman Within, because I have to tell you, because I'm actually going to pull up the modules. I have to tell you that this program, this feels like my life work. When I record things, I will zoom through them. I'll get on fire. I could do an entire course in one day when I'm really lit up inside. This course, this program, right now it is 8 modules. I already have plans for how I'm going to expand into the future. I have a couple more topics that are on my mind, but every single module was recorded on a different day, because it took so much of my heart and my soul with every single recording that I put into it. And even as I'm reading things, as I'm going through my work, I'm like, is this me? I was channeling something higher. This is a greater purpose that I have on this earth, is to wake up women, show you that you are worthy of every single thing and that you get to have it all. The life, the business, all of it. And self-care and self-love along the way. And so I want to walk you through the modules that are going to be inside this program, because the truth is, I want every single one of you to do this program. I want every single person in my world to do this program. That's how much it matters to me, because I believe if we can love ourselves and we can trust ourselves that much deeper, that we can show up and we can be a brighter light on this earth. I believe it'll click things into place for your business. I believe it'll click things into place for your life. That's how strongly I believe in this program. That's how much of myself I put into this program. Okay, so Module 1 is finding you, leading with love. Inside of that module, I'm going to talk about your priorities, your core values, who you are, how you show up for yourself, all of the things. Number 2, Module 2 is living life in balance, because I think balance is this like juggling act, right? But you have to be able to shift and move and pivot in order to live life fully balanced. And you actually have to know what kind of life you want to live in order to live that balance. I don't believe that it means that this is 50-50, right? I don't believe that. I believe it'll go all over the place, but you need to be a strong woman in order to shift and pivot with life. I want you to have things come at you and you still be able to love yourself, have self-care practices, and run a business through all of that, right? I want you to have because life happens and life happens to every single one of us. But when we are rooted to our lives and to ourselves, we can get through anything. We can move through anything and we can accomplish anything through that muck that we want to, if we truly want it. Module 3 is healing our inner stories and honoring our truth. That is like a big one. And Module 4 is building energetic boundaries. Energetic boundaries has probably been the one, like the top thing that has actually set me free inside of my own life. Building these boundaries. So I'm going to walk you through the process that I went through, what I do to build those boundaries, and to help you do the same. Module 5 is self-leadership and self-trust. You guys, whether you're in business or not, you are a leader inside of this world, right? And so we need to learn how to lead ourselves and to trust in ourselves. But what happens when we let ourselves down all the time, when we set ourselves up for these big things, so like, let's say I'm going to go on a big diet or whatever, if I continually let myself down, if I don't do the things I'm going to say I'm going to do, if I lose that trust in myself. So how do we build that trust? How do we live a life that honors that trust? We start living in alignment. We start living into who we're meant to be with our core priorities. When you find that you're canceling on other things, you're ducking out on the things that are your shoulds, that is an indication that you are living out of alignment, that you are not living into your core values and your core priorities. Module 7 is self-love practices and rituals. Module 8 is your evolution. So bringing it all home, rising into the woman that you are meant to be, tying a lovely little bow on it. And then I have a module on reflection of the entire process. So you guys, that is Awaken the Woman Within, my brand new program. It is, again, it's a piece of my soul headed your way, and a piece of my heart headed your way. And my hope for you is that not only will you scoop it up, but that you will internalize it, that you will do it over and over and over again, that you will set aside the time to do the work, because every single module comes with deep inner work, comes with journal prompts, comes with reflection, comes with ownership. I love you. I love this program. Thank you to every single one of you that honors yourself in this way, makes this investment in yourself, and it'll always be available to you. So have an incredible day.